Hey guys, you're watching Daniel Gian talk shit, and today is Thursday, October 22nd, 8:29 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, just so you know when we're starting off here, in case the podcast gets
when this
delayed. But the second official, and I think the last debate,
yes.
Although from what everybody's saying, it doesn't really matter since most people have already voted. There's a small percentage of people who probably haven't, but a lot of people I know I voted today. Actually, I dropped off my ballot way before.
I haven't voted.
You still haven't voted?
No, I still haven't even opened the booklet yet. Other than that one time when I was reading you the things that I'm like, But anyway, I plan to by the end of the week, so tomorrow, because I want it to go out before next week. I don't really want to wait till the last minute, even though that's what I'm doing. But anyway.
I think my first presidential election was in 2000, and I voted for the Green Party again. So that's 2000, 2004, 2008, 2012, 2016. My sixth time voting for the Green Party.
Why don't you just register for them already? Why don't you just marry them already?
I should just marry him. I know. I totally should. Yeah. That's how I roll. You know, honestly,
Did you vote yes on Prop 22?
I actually did. Yes, I did. And I see the people that are like, I get it, and I'm in agreement with it. But my issue with the Prop 22 more than anything else is,
explain Prop 22.
Are the people against it? So last year, I think it was September 2019. This bill, AB 5, got passed in California. That basically made all independent contractors employees in the state of California. And
now, why would that be bad, Gian? Because what's wrong with being an employee?
Well, a lot of people get into these industries because they want to be freelance. They want to have control of their schedule. You know, a lot of people do Uber because, hey, if I want to take a day off, I don't have to call in sick. I don't have to ask for permission. If I want to work 16 hours a day, I can work 16 hours a day. It's up, there's that freedom. And I always thought that the people that were complaining about what Uber's practices were and Lyft's practices were and Postmates, I always felt like they were the people that wanted to drive from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., like the deadest time in LA. And they weren't making any money. Yeah, exactly. So they were pissed off that they weren't making any money, but they were spending, using gas, putting miles in their car. Just didn't really study, didn't really realize how to work smart. So they got this bill passed because state of California and Uber and basically all the gig workers, they don't get along. Not the gig workers, excuse me, but the gig companies don't get along because they kind of came into the state and making a lot of money, and they didn't pay off the right politicians. I think that's the best way of putting it. And this is not a defense of Uber and Lyft either, because I don't condone their practices per se. Yeah, their style of business is predatory, but at the same time, I feel like if you do it, you know what you're getting into. I think the problem is too many people jumped into this thinking it was going to be a career, and they made a lot of money at first. So without counting expenses, without counting wear and tear on their vehicle, gas, so on and so forth, cleaning, they didn't take that into account.
Forgetting that they're just a taxi cab service, but in their own vehicle.
Right, pretty much, exactly. And I think a lot of people forgot about that part, so they're like, oh, we're getting taken advantage of. And I don't know what Uber and Lyft's profit margins are, but from everything I've heard, they're in the red. Left and right. A lot of that has to do with because they're spending a lot of money on R&D, because eventually they want to do once driverless cars become a thing, if and when they become a thing, they want to be at the forefront of that. That's what I've been told from numerous people in the industry. But especially trucking, driverless trucking is what they're trying to attack. But
at least for the main part of the trip, because they have to have a real driver for the last part.
Right. So the AB5 thing, I was like, okay, I get it. I see what you guys are trying to do. You're trying to make it a little more fair for the drivers, even though the drivers who want this more than anything, I don't Like I said, I don't think they've gone about the business smartly. But the problem is it started bleeding into every other industry. It was a across the board bill where you're a journalist, like you write for websites, like sports, like you do blogs for a sports website or a lot of stuff that we do, like film and television stuff. That got affected too, where they had to switch up the way they paid people. And then I know there's smaller companies, like small businesses that did their own like event coordination where they would hire people like, hey, I need you for an event. Catering services. Catering services are huge in LA. You hire people to go and be a server. A lot of actors go and they pass out hors d'oeuvres and champagne at wedding receptions and stuff like that. Like that got affected too. All of a sudden, those companies couldn't work. So it was like, okay, this AB5 thing is all bad. And then Uber and Lyft had enough money to pass or like get someone to write this proposition that basically reversed AB5
and get the signatures and pay people to get the signatures.
Exactly. And like get some of AB5 pushed back, but only for them specifically. So only for like gig drivers. Everybody else that got affected by AB5 is still the same. So I voted yes on it because I'm hoping that maybe if Prop 22 goes by, eventually AB5 will get repealed as well. Because there's a lot of people, and I know people who are not happy with AB5 at all. Because there's people who work for USC football who lost their jobs from some of the bigger sports blog sites because they're like, hey, I can't make you an employee. You don't want to be an employee. This doesn't work out for either of us. Because there's a medical that comes along with it. And then, people want to live in LA. They don't want to live in Texas or wherever this website's from. It's just, and I'm sure there's ways around it, but it's just too complicated. But anyways, that's I voted no on that or yes on that one. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. November, whenever they count everything. Who knows? It won't be November 3rd when we know these things, that's for sure.
Definitely not. No, sometime next year.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see what happens there.
I wonder who's going to actually go into those ballot boxes and really make sure that none of them got lost. Do they have a sack and then maybe like some of them will fall out of the sack if they get overfilled? So there's like some underneath the sack inside the box.
Well, there's I think you can track your ballot. I think some services to like see if it's been counted or something like that. I don't know.
Whatever number I think I threw away whatever tracking number I may have had. I don't know how to.
I've always my voting experiences haven't been the best because I always have to vote absentee because every time I change it every year or whenever every 2 years where I'm like I don't want this anymore. I want to vote in person. I do all the processes, fill all the paperwork out, and then inevitably what happens, they send me a mail-in ballot, and then I have to vote absentee again. So now that it's pandemic, I got another mail-in ballot. So this time I'm actually going to use it. So it's cool that I'm still enrolled in the program. So unless everyone got a mail-in ballot, I don't know.
Everyone did.
Oh, well.
Yeah, they had. There's different options. You could actually like send it through the mail, or you could go to the drop boxes. They have drop boxes all over, where you could leave your ballot.
Well, either way, this is the first time where now I get to use the mail-in.
Tell me about the debate. I didn't watch it.
Well, what do you want to know about the debate?
Well, did you watch the whole thing? Did you watch parts of it? Like,
I watched the whole thing. I think because of the forced muting and all that stuff, both of them were more presidential, quote unquote, especially Trump, because he had to be restrained. So he just looked like he was there to wait and respond. And then as a result, his responses were a little bit more, for both of them, were a little bit more focused per se, I guess you could say. And then that was good for about 45 minutes to an hour. And then they kind of started going back and forth. I thought they both made good points on certain things, but at the end of the day, all it did was reinforce which I already knew that anyway. I just wanted to see what was going to happen because it's what people were going to be talking about, and just who's going to say what or what's going to what's going to be the news. Like I actually didn't even know because of this. I found out in this debate that I didn't know Barron Trump had COVID. I thought it was just Ivanka and Donald. I didn't know his son had COVID too.
I mean, I figured that's. I'd be more surprised that he didn't get it.
Maybe, but I don't know. I don't remember reading about it. That's all my point. I'm like, oh, okay. Not it didn't change anything. It's just, oh, that was interesting.
Maybe
to
it was
know.
a confidentiality. Because he's a minor, they couldn't announce that unless Trump gave him permission to announce it.
Maybe it makes sense.
You know?
I don't know. I know that I don't know. It kind of went back and forth on a bunch of different things, but it wasn't explosive. It didn't fall off the rails, quote unquote. But there are definitely some moments back and forth where I like, okay, I see where Trump's right on these things, but at the same time, then you have Biden who's right on. I mean, when it comes to reopening things, I think there's a certain amount of truth to certain things being able to be reopened. That doesn't mean being reopened completely, but that also doesn't mean completely shut down. Like, I don't know the data here, but this is just me throwing it out there. If, let's say you can look, I don't know what not rhetoric, but like rubric you'd put this, like what standards you'd hold this to. But let's say,
Yeah.
Disney World hadn't had any cases related to Disney World in months or since they've opened. Let's just make that up, right? Because of however their practices are, whatever that is, whatever they're doing, they have to be doing something in Florida. It's not like they just said, okay, you guys can just open up completely everything. Like something, there's some sort of something, right? You would assume. I'm assuming. Anyway, if they can prove that, then I don't see why they shouldn't be able to open up here in California. Maybe not to the same capacity, but see what happens. But because they're not doing that, it really is limiting certain industries where it's like I sent you this article last week. I don't think we talked about it, about how Disney's restructuring their company towards streaming and how they were going to do it anyway, but this whole situation kind of just really, really
kind of bumped it up.
Yeah, and so it could be potentially like a death blow to movie theaters and stuff as we know them, because that's just saying that the money is direct to consumer. That's where the money is. Where they knew that all along. That's why as soon as Netflix really started taking it off, they're like, "Oh, we got to do this too," which is why they started making Disney Plus, right? That's why they're making shows that we haven't seen them yet, as
Right.
Blacker Than Black Times Infinity likes to say, but they are coming. Those $300 million plus budgets have already been spent for the most part. So those shows are gonna come, and that's where their future is. So, but the point is Trump's kind of was saying some things similar to that, which I kind of agree with. But then you have other things where finally, like, Trump tried to bring up this Biden China shit, and then now that I guess the whole recent thing about Trump having a bank account and blah 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 blah, they could finally just dead the subject. It was a nice little cancellation because Biden could say this about China and they kind of just were able to just move on. It was nice to just,
Right.
because I'm personally just tired of it either way. Like, Trump's wasn't allowed to hold a business before then. I don't get it. Like, of course the man has influence from other parts of the world for different countries. Like, it should just be assumed because of his business pasts. Like, that's what's happening. You can't unmake relationships.
Yeah, but I think it's also because of his stance, not his whole, but a lot of his
I know he wants to blame
rhetoric has
China
been
for everything.
anti-China. Yeah. While he's still profiting from China. Like,
Of course.
Just, so there's like a bit of hypocrisy that people are trying to point out. And it's like I said before, his supporters don't give a shit about that.
Right, that's what I was saying. All it did was just double.
Yeah.
Because as before we started talking about this, the oil industry, that Biden said he was going to just, kill the oil industry, and then Trump latched onto that. And that's, for that segment of voters, they really care about that, and that's going to make a difference for them. But they already were on that fence anyway. It was just more back and forth. It was just at least Biden seemed somewhat coherent. Like, Biden definitely got him from an emotional standpoint about the kids who were separated from their parents. And I guess,
Yeah.
like, 500 or so. I didn't know about this part. Not that it really made a difference, but 500 or so, they can't find their parents, so they're kind of just still in the detention centers by themselves, basically. I mean, they're with each other, but you know what I'm trying to say. They're not with any family. Biden got him on that. Like, he couldn't say anything about that other than, well, we ended the program that made you build the cages, because that's what he was saying, that the cages were built under the Obama and Biden administration, and we did da-da-da-da-da, and then Biden just kept on the 500 children, which, again, to his populations, that's just, or his backers, that just emboldens them. So both people had their, like, moments of doubling down on themselves and, okay, we're going to, but again, more of the same. Honestly, I just can't wait till Friday when Borat comes out so I can watch Borat, and then I just hope the election to be over one way or the other. Like, okay, I'm honestly tired of receiving the 50 million phone calls. I hate the fact that I registered to vote so young and put my phone number and email there. Like, I should never have done that, because I didn't know it would open me up to, like, a world of spam every 2 years. Like, I've literally wasted. You want to talk about global warming and, like, waste products and shit like that? Man, I don't know how much Republicans get in terms of newsletters, but the Democratic Party wastes so much money. I have thrown away pounds of leaflets, pamphlets, flyers, like, literally booklets on, like, vote yes, this is why this and this and that. Like, I should have just collected them all so I can show them for a moment just like this and be like, look, this is all the things. Like, my mailbox, I have to check my mailbox every day because otherwise it would get full after a day or two.
They're just really worried about losing you as a voter.
I guess that's
like, with the Republican Party, it's like, you're white. We know you're not going anywhere.
Here, they send you a nice little card saying, here you go, you're white, don't forget.
Yeah.
With an elephant on it. And they're like, yeah, God damn it. With the sticker. They put a bumper sticker in the mail for them.
No, what they do is they get, like, reflective paper, so you get it, and then you look up, it's just a reflection
of yourself, and you're like, oh, yeah, that's smart.
Yeah, yeah. And then you turn around and it says, GOP 2020.
2020, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's all they need, too.
That's all they need. Oh,
See,
shit.
We just made a presidential campaign for somebody. That's all we got to do.
Just
for the Green Party. You should pitch that to the Green Party. Tell them, #Green Party, and just send them I don't even know what their emblem is.
I don't even think they have enough money to send out stuff like that.
Email, bro. Email list.
Yeah. So the email won't reflect on you, though. That's the problem.
It'll make something where it's like, tilt your screen this way, and it'll like.
Yeah. Can the Green Party have access to your camera?
Yeah. So it can show yourself. There you go. That's it.
We promise. Just this one email.
But yeah, I'm getting tired of those things. So, I just want it all to be over and just let's move on. Because if Trump wins, it's done. He's not going to be president after the next 4 years. Strap in. The next 4 are going to be, who knows? If Biden wins, well, Trump could still come back if he's old, if he wants to. And when he's 78 years old or however old he'll be in 4 years. So, it doesn't really, like, either way, the world's going to move on. So I'm just ready to move on, I guess. Trump did say there's going to be a vaccine in the next few weeks, so maybe I'll be able to cut my hair. That's what he said. He said he's immune. Just real quick before because I interrupted you. He said that he's immune. He said that there's going to be a vaccine in the next few weeks. And, yeah, that all the generals are ready to put it out there.
Yeah, I'm not going to let you take that vaccine, bro, until, like, the first, like, 1 million Mexicans take it before you. And as long as they don't die, then you can take it. Because I'm not taking that shit. That's for sure.
Well, I don't even take the flu vaccine. So it's like the flu shot or whatever every year.
I'll tell you what. I never took the flu vaccine, and then they snuck it on me last year.
And then you got the flu?
And then, no. That's funny, is my son got really sick, and Maria got really sick. Maria got
and you're
so
like,
sick.
Ha ha! You've been a Nelson.
No. I'm just saying that I didn't get sick last year when both of them got sick, which was interesting. I don't think I ever got sick at all last year, or not that last year, earlier this year. Maria got so sick that she thought she had COVID already. She keeps saying, I had COVID already. That's what I had, because I got super sick and everybody else got super sick.
People keep
Like,
saying that. I feel like that's
yeah.
some like Bernstein bear thing, because I said the same thing too. Like I was sick whenever UFC was in Texas around that weekend. I was real sick, and then, but that was a few weeks probably or a month before, like everything really
Yeah.
broke. But and they say it's there since November, but I feel like I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. I think
Because I
think
know
you're-
people who've taken there's ways you could take contact tests. There's contact tests which will
Yeah.
actually like, analyze your blood or something like that, and I'll actually analyze whether you've ever had contact with it or not, regardless if you actually were
it sees if you have like the antigens or
whatever it
something
is,
gens
yeah.
or whatever.
And
Yeah,
so the people
antibodies.
there's no way that I've been exposed to it so far. But who knows? I mean, one of my family members got COVID, so it's still going around. And as long as people still act like the way my family member's handling it, it's still going to go around.
Yeah, it's one of those things right now where we're at. Like now, it's just now it's just personal responsibility and common sense out there. You know,
And that's unfortunate because you look at New Zealand. Like I remember those photos that came out last week. They were showing like a football game or something, soccer, whatever it was, rugby, and it was like full stadium. The stadium was full because there's no cases there, so they can go back to literally how it was, 100%.
Yeah,
So,
it seems like anytime there's a new case, it's somebody that came from another country.
and they nip it right away.
Right.
They have it down.
Exactly.
So it is personal responsibility, but at the same time, it's like people in this country only become personally responsible, I think like most human beings, but they become personally responsible only when it affects them and only when it gravely affects them and really inconveniences them. Because if they get it and then they don't die from it or they don't get sick from it, then it doesn't really help the cause, quote unquote, help the cause with the quotes. Because then they're just like, Trump, it's no big deal. But Melania was wearing a mask tonight, even though Trump wasn't. She came on stage with her mask. She wasn't playing no games anymore. She's like, fuck this. I'm okay with being your wife and all this stuff, but I didn't sign up to get COVID.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be pissed off. I'd be pissed off, especially if it's like because of like negligence.
All your stupid friends, like, don't you? God damn it! They probably do have conversations like that. Like, you're supposed to wear this fucking mask.
Yeah, like, did we bring it up? I don't know if we ever talked about it on the podcast, but like per capita, the states with the highest death rates are the states that opened everything up, and they're like, no, this is no big deal. Like, and I know people want to argue, well, it's pre-existing conditions and this, that, and the third, and you know, everyone in the fucking U.S. has a pre-existing condition because we're all fat fucks, you know. We're all fucking obese, which causes other shit.
Not me. I'm not obese anymore.
Not you anymore.
I removed myself from that list. I was on that list for a long time.
Dude, I went and looked at a house yesterday, and I recorded like videos of the house for my wife.
And you're like,
and I started listening to it, and my breathing, the way I'm breathing, I'm like, oh fuck, dude, I'm a fat fuck. I'm a legit heavy breathing fat fuck right now. Like, and I, goddamn, dude, I need to stop. I need to stop. But it's like, fuck, dude. It's like there's so much stress eating going on. The gym's not open, you know. And I've never been someone to just get up and go run. You know, I think running is stupid. I hate running. So just to like run on the street because that's my only option, which is now not stupid anymore.
2 weeks this year, and I hurt my knee. I haven't run since.
Oh, it's totally not good for your body. That's the best part. Like running, like, oh, running's great, but it's not.
That's also because I hadn't run in like 21 years, and then
there's no conditioning your legs, dude. It's not a conditioning thing. Like, especially if you're running, unless you're running on a trail specifically made for jogging and shit. That constant slamming on concrete if you're running on the street, that's terrible for you. So many people that run have knee problems because of that constant. And then also like your brain actually moves when you're running too. Like there's a bunch of stuff that's not too wonderful about it. There's other cardio.
I mean,
exercises
if
that
people are running
for
by
it.
you, they're gonna see your fucking gut jiggling and stuff. Like,
There's
I'm not about
your
that
titties
either.
bouncing, fucking people clowning you. Look at this fat motherfucker running right now.
Like, you can't. You're caught between two worlds because you can't wear like super loose clothing because then they're just gonna be like, "What are you hiding, bro? Like, we can all see it."
Right.
It just looks
You're that
worse.
fat girl with the big shirt, you know.
Like we all know. Like
You're
if
that
you're
girl
going
with-
swimming with the shirt on, like
Yeah.
come on, what are you hiding?
Well, but there's also girls get away with it. There's some girls that just have really big boobs and they don't want people to know they have really big boobs, so they wear the baggy shirt to try to hide it. You know, there's
Sure.
that. That doesn't work for guys.
But that's I was gonna say, but that's women. That's not men.
Yeah, it doesn't
You're-
work for guys at
and
all.
then and then
Yeah.
and then if you wear too tight of skin clothes, like you're gonna get a rash. You're gonna get like I don't know, like chafing and whatever that is.
This is like typical conversation for this podcast, by the way. Like, try to bring up Texas and Florida and shit. Veered
And then
away to
now we're
fucking
talking about chafing.
chafing because we're fat fucks. Or
Hey,
you were a
you
fat fuck.
you
I
brought
am.
it up. You brought
I
it
know.
up.
It's my fault. Completely my fucking fault. I accept that. But I'm just saying, we have this like empirical data showing the states that decided to just fucking be the Wild West, way more people are dying in comparison to the population. You know, California's low. Now you can make the argument that we're a little too tightened up.
Well,
That's
I think personally, it's overcompensating for fucking Gavin Newsom's fucking up when he opened up too soon.
Right. That could be that for sure.
Because we did open up where I was like, what? And then we're shut back down again. And everyone was like, come on, we know it's too early. It was like 2 or 3 weeks after Florida opened up or something. It's like,
Yeah.
something. It was, what you got to New York now, but see now New York, it's been months and months and months. It's like, okay, at what point? And we talked about this earlier. It's a difficult situation because if you're an official, you're an elected official, and you genuinely just want to keep people safe, that is the best way to keep people safe. To continue to keep things locked down, to continue to keep things like under your control, under your thumb, to do this. But there's also consequences to that. There's ramifications to that, and those are also equally legitimate, I think. You know, if you come out alive of the whole thing, but now you don't have a source of income anymore, or your livelihood is gone, yeah, you could pick yourselves up by the bootstraps like a Republican would tell you to do, but why? When it was shut down out of your control, you know, whatever that might be, or you lost your job because of whatever. And then I don't know.
Do what? And to do what? That's the thing too. Like, you know, my job got shut down. I've been at this place.
I was a restaurant and I closed down. Like I'm hearing about
Yeah.
all these restaurants that are closing down. Okay, I just spent
So
all
where
this
do you want
money
me to
to
go? You want me?
spend all this money to make a
Yeah.
restaurant. To maybe I survived the first 2-year hump that every restaurant isn't that like a thing? Like the first year or two, like most restaurants
Say
close
3
down.
years within. Yeah.
And
Within
if
the
maybe
first
you
year,
survive
they'll shut
that,
down,
and
but-
then
yeah, if you get past the first 3 years, then you'll be around for a while.
and then maybe you shut down because of this or whatever it might be, and it's like, that's not really fair either. Like that, why? You know, I don't know. It's a tricky situation. I think genuinely it's a tricky situation, but at some point there has to be a give and take, and you can't. I don't know. It's weird because it's not like when I look at the cases of like the SARS or whatever came before COVID, whatever was going on, like the swine flu and all these things. We never wore masks. None of us. I never even thought to wear a mask. You might see someone, and it was just you'd see an Asian person wearing a mask because traditionally in this country, all you would see are Asians wearing masks. Not during pandemics, but just because that's their culture, right? When they're sick, I'm going to put a mask on to prevent myself from spreading it to others, which is great. But that's all we saw.
Even if they're not sick, you know, I see people at the store with masks on. Like this is way before the pandemic. You would always.
But they were predominantly Asian.
Yes, but 100% Asian.
Yeah, like you can't even be PC about it. That's all you.
I mean,
would
not
see
even. I don't even like. If we want to be PC,
construction workers, so Mexicans.
No. It was never. It was never Filipinos either. It wasn't. You know, it wasn't Vietnamese people. It was usually Chinese or Korean.
Right.
You know,
Maybe Japanese.
Japanese tourists for sure. Like they'd come in, they wear masks. I remember picking up people at the airport and they'd wear a mask. Get off the plane with the mask. They'd take the mask off in the car, but
And that's okay.
you know,
That's okay.
yeah, that's fine. And I'm not. It's not a judgment call at all. I mean, it's just a cultural thing that was easy. But for some reason here,
yeah, but this one, it went from no mask, no mask, no mask to mask, and then it's a little bit of a hard pill for people to swallow, and I kind of get it to a certain degree. It's just depending on how serious you take the whole virus situation. Because I can't recall ever having to wear a mask, being required to wear one
no,
for anything.
I've never have.
So clearly something's different, right? Something changed. So I don't know. It's just weird times, I guess. I don't know what I'm rambling about, but it's just, I guess my point is nothing's black.
Well, it goes back to the reason why the things are like taking longer to go back to normal is because of people fighting the things that they need to do to hopefully get past it.
Well, here's the thing that Trump said today. What you just said, fighting against it. Trump said that Biden said we need to retrofit the country to be more, to be more everything, to be more energy efficient, to be more this, to be more that. We need to make sure restaurants are making cubicles with like plastic whatever around to contain the virus and things like that. And Trump's like, basically said, well, okay, how are they going to pay for it? Like, what are they going to, how you expect them to go through all this like shutdown that you guys are putting them through and then expect them to come out with more money and then retrofit their whole restaurant just because of what you said? Like, where are they going to get the money to pay for this? And it's true. Like, that's a genuine fact. Like, where do they get the money to do all these things? And that's how.
Yeah, well, meanwhile, we just spent $100 billion to fucking build more nuclear missiles.
Right. We sold. I think we sold someone arms with like Taiwan or something recently for 20-something billion or whatever. So it's like we could put some money around. We could move some money around.
That's the elephant in the room that nobody wants to fucking mention. But it's like I don't want to hear Trump saying shit about where's this money going to come from when we see, they pass these stimulus bills and then we see how many billions of dollars are going to fucking military funding.
No, I'm not disputing Trump. So when Trump says it, I hear you. I'm behind you. But when the average voter says it, I think there's valid because how are they going to change that? They're not powerful enough.
No, and I agree with that, and that's why I bring up that point. Like,
yeah, when Trump says it, it's like BS. He could change it.
Yeah, but even the average voter, like, where's the money going to come from? Well, look at the paper trail. Maybe at some point people got to stop voting the same fucking people in. But then it's really what it comes down to.
Well, it's weird because it's all about everyone you vote for is trying to like prepare for the future, right? That's the whole point. You want this person to be in office because they're going to help better my position in the few years or whenever, right? By the end of their term, by the end of the whatever. And so it's all a paranoia game because everyone's paranoid about, well, if you don't elect me like when it comes to this particular area, you're going to lose this, this, and this, right? If you nominate Amy, whatever her name is, the new Supreme Court, you're going to lose Roe v. Wade. It's a fear thing. Like, you're going to lose. It's always about losing. And the same thing could be said for like conservatives too, which is why the military budget's the way it is. But then someone like me, who I definitely feel like I'm both sides on things, maybe more in the middle. I don't know. But you study history, which I feel like now that I'm getting deeper into history, I feel like conservatives are usually the ones who are more geared towards learning about history, ironically enough. But you see how, I'm just going to throw this up because North Korea, came up in the debates, how you kind of should have to keep these countries in military check, right? If you become the power who loses the power when other people become more powerful than you in terms of weaponry, in terms of everything, you can lose your spot. And it's happened. And I don't believe that we've somehow crossed this magical threshold of like that will never happen again, that there'll never be another Hitler again, that there'll never be another X, Y, and Z ruler, right? Like,
well, the irony of that is that when you run your campaign on a nationalist ticket, and you're trying to push, America first, to make America great again, blah 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 blah.
I'm just defending the national defense budget a little bit. Is my
No,
point.
and I get it, but my point is, where we're geographically located, nobody's a fucking threat.
Yeah, but
Unless
see,
Mexico starts building arms and stuff like
here's
that. Like World War II. World War II was not a threat to the U.S. Yeah, the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. You know how far away Hawaii is from continental U.S.? They didn't make it anywhere near the continental U.S.
Well,
and the reason why they were scared about it was because at that time there was no fucking internet. So it was like, oh shit. And they were looking for a reason to get into the war, just like with World War One. They were looking for a reason to join the war.
Maybe. I'm actually on a whole podcast about this right now, and I can give the theories of the presenter. But what I would say is, in terms of like the war, right? Because you bring up the war, I just feel like you got to stop that. I don't know. Well, what's your point? Like, what's your overall point? Like, what do you?
I just think the U.S. is already lost as a world power when it comes to everything else that made it a power. And now it's
True.
like
Education,
it feels like
things like that.
It feels like what it's trying to hold on to now is weapons, the military aspect. So
which will keep you in power for long enough. Oh, I know what I wanted to say. You were talking about the U.S. not being. That's what makes it scary. If North Korea does get missiles capable enough, and obviously he's proven that doesn't seem to be the case, because building rockets is challenging, especially when you have no one actually helping you.
Right. And your scientists, scientists
refuse,
are fucking starving.
Exactly. So it's like it's not easy. It's not easy to do this job.
They work 3 hours a day, or they sleep 3 hours a day because they have to work 19 hours.
Right.
So
and their rockets, they shoot them and they explode on launch. They fucking fly over and they launch into the whatever. They do all these crazy things because they haven't figured it out yet. But you look at the map, you look at the globe, Korea's not that far from us. If they were able to come up with something and they decided to just pull the trigger and say, fuck it, we're going to do it. We're going to Pearl Harbor the U.S. and they launched off a few nukes. Yeah, maybe it might end in them being completely obliterated, or maybe it not. I don't know. The fact of the matter is, those decisions like that with nukes maybe have not been made yet, but with other technology, those decisions have been made. Where countries have decided to say, okay, we're going to invade now. We're going to do this now. I don't make because when Putin announces that he has supersonic missiles, that puts a fear in me. Now, it's not a long-term fear, because then you'll never live your life, right? You'll just live in fear and paranoia, just like living with nuclear bombs was, I'm sure, in the 50s and 60s and stuff. But it's like, that's scary, because that means we don't have countermeasures to that. We have no way to counter that right now.
It's funny. When my brother was talking to me yesterday, and he brought up this point. He said, that Russian engineers are vastly superior to American engineers. The problem is that they have terrible QC. So there's a reason why Russian products have never made it anywhere in the globe, because the second you get it, they
disintegrate.
they break. They're not quality products, and this is obviously sounding stereotypical or generalized statement, but since the USSR, when they had actual power and money, to now, they have yet to develop any products that are worthwhile. So for me to believe that they're able to develop some sort of military weapon that's powerful enough to get all the way from Russia over here and cause some fucking destruction,
but they have ICBMs that are good enough to, like, maybe the supersonic weapon, maybe, sure, you're right, but the regular ICBMs that they've had since the 80s and 70s are just as capable. And the thing is, you know how long the response time is to shoot one of those things down is? You have 6 minutes. You have 6 minutes. Okay. And the only reason why you have 6 minutes is because there's seismic detectors that could be like, I think they launched a missile. And you have to figure out where that missile is going so you can get, like, the whole idea of shooting down another missile, they think it's, like, easy. I'm not saying you are, but, like, the conception of shooting down another missile with another missile seems like, oh, yeah, we got this in the bag. Well, what if you miss? Like, I'm not saying it's going to happen, because it leads to total war on a scale we've never seen before, but we've also dropped 2 nuclear bombs as well.
I guess my point more than anything is that, you know, they've never done anything. That's the thing. And,
Not overtly,
know,
but Cold War obviously was a lot of.
there's a reason why they're attacking everybody with fucking bots. And they're doing internet attacks.
Because that's way more effective to just.
Yeah.
Look what the last 4 years have done to our populace.
And what's the key to that though? There's a big key to that. It doesn't cost
our
as
own
much.
our own stupidity. Really, they're
no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying it is more cost efficient to do cyber attacks than it would be to launch missiles.
I'm sure they can spend the $20 million it would cost to build this cruise missile and put that into like attack spam bots, and they could be spamming for doing damage for so long.
Right. Exactly. Because I mean, the Russian economy is not strong. You know, they're completely dependent on crude oil. So, you know, that's just something. I guess the argument goes back to the whole, like, do we really still need to keep spending so much on military? Because we also know.
I do. That's what I'm saying. I think I do, because history is on on my side, and when it comes to these things, obviously
I completely disagree with that. What history?
Everything.
These weapons that we have, these are less than 100 years old.
Okay, but do you think it's never going to happen? That's what I'm saying. Do you think we've crossed this magical threshold, this magical land of peacefulness that will never venture into war again?
No, I'm saying in almost 300 years as a country, no one has ever invaded the U.S.
Oh, Germany came pretty close. Mexico almost.
Germany didn't come close. Germany lost the war before the U.S. joined.
No,
they lost when they decided to go after Russia. Okay, that war was lost by them. By the time the U.S. joined, what makes World War II great, quote unquote, is that every fucking major European power decimated themselves, and the U.S. was able to take over and become the world power because they did not have the amount of casualties that the rest of the world had. That's the number one byproduct of World War II. And what I'm saying is, people attacking the U.S. It's never happened. It's not going to happen anytime soon. It might eventually at some point, but there's too many obstacles.
I'm just saying that Mexico, the one good thing that we have almost went over to Nazi Germany. And they were going to use Mexico as a front to invade from the United States. You could see these. They were able to. These are intercepted messages and correspondences. I don't remember how they squashed it, but they were able to. Thankfully,
I don't think it would have worked.
Well, no. I mean, I don't know how it would have worked either. But they did get closer than you think. There was sightings all along the coast of where I live, on the port of L.A., in New York. These are all documented. It's just they're not the front page news. It's not the Louisiana or whatever, how do you pronounce that boat? The one that got us into World War One. But they're there. There's ships that were blown off the coast of our country, U-boats. Like it's. I'm not saying that it's going to happen tomorrow. I'm saying that we are still the same human beings, in terms of biology, in terms of genetics, and all this shit.
Right.
That we were 100 years ago. 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 1,500 years ago, et cetera, et cetera.
There's also something that the U.S. has going for it that the rest of the world doesn't. And that's being a new country. Because the instilled hatred of neighboring countries does not exist. That's the problem. That's the biggest plus. The Germans hate the French, hate the English. Everybody hates the Russians. And they've hated each other for hundreds and thousands of years. Like we see it with our big viewership in India. We see that there's thousands of years of
yeah. I won't disagree with that. It's like
anger towards each other.
It's like why Gandhi was basically like, yeah, the Nazis are bad, but the British were worse. So he didn't say these words, but it's like, I'm not saying Hitler's cool, but the good guys, quote unquote, were just as bad to us than Hitler was. It's like Muhammad Ali. Whatever he said, like no Viet Cong ever called me the N word. It's the same sentiment. Like they might be the enemy, quote unquote, but what did they really do to me? Again, I'm not disputing that. I'm just saying that people are capable of doing these things, And history has shown that time and time again, that it's the right guy under the right circumstances. But I agree with you, though. America isn't, we're not a false country either with some English background to us, but we are an amalgamation of the world. So all of that infighting just continues to exist in here. It's why in LA you can have Turkish people and Armenians not get along in the same city because they both live here. Or Holocaust deniers and Jewish people, they exist. The Nazis, all, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just picking things that are like conflict groups traditionally, but they all exist here too. So it kind of comes home because the country is the world. But I agree with you. The new part does help. But at the same time, we weren't perfect either. So there's enough to like to fracture the country apart. Treatment of Native Americans, the treatment of the African Americans, treatment of the Chinese, treatment of.
I'm more concerned. More concerned about something happening domestically than I am an international power attacking.
Hey like man, that's a
bigger concern for me.
Here's one thing I'll say: you can't say that we've never been attacked. We were attacked on 9/11. Period. We got to acknowledge
allegedly.
The fact. No, I don't care who did it. We were attacked on 9/11. We were attacked on 9/11. Doesn't matter if it was an inside job. Doesn't matter if it was there was an attack on the soil. I mean, just they hit us twice, 3 times, I guess, the Pentagon too. But like, you don't just mistakenly fly an airplane, all those planes in. Those were attacks. So we did get hit, and it's actually kind of crazy that that's how we did get hit because it goes in line with what you just said. Because that's also a reason to have increased national security too for that stuff as well. You know, it's just, do we need more than the next 10 countries combined, like, and still be more than that? I don't know, but who's to say what's too much? I guess is the better question.
And not to sound insensitive, but to use one of your arguments against you, like, how many people actually died in 9/11? You know?
3 plus however many died of cancer. But see, I would argue that
more people have died of COVID-19 than have died of 9/11.
Yes,
more people. I'm saying it was a devastating attack. It was awful, but
it's done more. It's done more damage. Those people's lives, the amount of damage that 9/11 did to our country, outweighed tremendously the weight of the people who were lost.
But the amount of damage that was done to the country has been done by our politicians in terms
Correct.
of policies,
which is
and stuff like that.
So now I'm saying that if you're going to trace that back to Osama bin Laden and the Al Qaeda and all this stuff, well, yeah, they worked. They did a Russian type like internet, how the Russians are doing now, what we just talked about, right? The Russians would rather spend money doing this. Well, bin Laden and his CIA-trained people were able to use that knowledge and do an attack from the CIA playbook. I mean, I don't see what would be. I don't know what's alleged about that.
But there's a bunch of data out there suggesting that bin Laden had absolutely nothing to do with 9/11.
Okay, bin Laden's a figurehead.
There's a lot of that out there.
Al Qaeda. If you can show me that there's no points to Al Qaeda either. If you want to say bin Laden had nothing to do with it, fine. But Al Qaeda is the one. Correct me if I'm wrong. They're the ones who took responsibility for 9/11. Again, correct. If that's a new fact that I'm coming, fine. You want to debate Osama? I don't know enough about him to do that, but I know.
I'm saying there's enough like red herrings out there.
I'm saying America trained the people.
I'm not a conspiracy
who did these attacks.
But I'm just saying there's a lot of stuff, fishy stuff going around the 9/11 attacks. It's easy. The reason why people don't go too deep into it is because there's way more shit to go deep into it now. It's also been 20 years now almost.
Well, because you have the internet to really discredit a lot of these things.
Right.
So to me, it doesn't matter. It's influenced
everything. Also because
it's changed the game. It's changed.
The mob isn't strong anymore. So like you could write fucking books and still stay alive, you know, unless you're Jeffrey Epstein. Maybe that's why he got whacked, because he didn't fucking write a book.
I don't know. Either way, my whole thing though is that's my defense to it. But that doesn't mean you can't take a little bit off the top for another program that might benefit X, Y, and Z. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of just.
Well, I guess the whole thing goes back to, like, for me, you know, we start looking at the paper trails and we see that a lot of these contracts are going out to people that are lobbyists that are in bed with other people in the government. So that's a big reason why they're getting made. It's not because of like they're worried about defending the country. It's because, oh shit, I got a lot of money invested in this company. I need to keep fucking making money.
Yeah, but then you get the technological advancements of it down the line because it came from military tech, and then you realize that like it kind of goes hand in hand. Military R&D.
I'm not saying all military R&D isn't weapons based.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
I'm talking about contracts to build fucking weapons that aren't military. They're not even military R&D. They're fucking they're private companies that are coming up with shit. And those private companies don't sell weapons just to America exclusively.
Here's the problem. Well. Here's the problem with getting down this rabbit hole. You and I can't produce any documents that say, okay, X amount of dollars are going to this, X amount of dollars are going to that. So it's all speculation. It's all hearsay. It's all based on like what we've heard over the years because we've heard stories about, well, this military contract, they're the military police. I mean, no, not the military police. The PMCs were like all over Iraq, and they were the ones controlling it after that. And I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm not disputing their existence. I'm saying
Pentagon estimates cost of new nuclear missiles at $95.8 billion.
I don't even know what you're even referring to. I'm talking about private military. You have to give me more context to that stat.
I'm just saying, I'm just telling you that it's public knowledge released by the Pentagon that this much money is going to get spent to make nuclear missiles. All right.
No,
that doesn't have to do with
but it's not for the
company.
whole. I'm not arguing about one thing. I'm talking about the whole 10 billion or not, whatever, not 10 billion, whatever it is, trillions of dollar for a. My point is, we don't know where our tax money goes. We've talked about this before. So to say that like, well, it's mostly going to this, it's mostly going to that, we don't know because I guarantee you there's black bars everywhere. There's blacked out things where you don't know where this goes. Here's $70 billion just unaccounted for. What? How do you explain that? I don't know. We can't tell you. But you know.
Well, there's also like just making documents so thick and full of words that things get lost in the words. Where it's right there, it is technically transparent, but you have to go through everything with a fucking fine-tooth comb and a magnifying glass. You know, where most people like the normal
here's all of our spending for what we've done. We're not gonna tell you how much, but you can count it and figure it out yourself. Good luck.
Exactly. So like you know, Joe.
Here's
USA
all of our receipts. Here's all the receipts, and they just throw it down on the counter.
And you're gonna give up after 5 minutes because you're like, you know what, I'm not getting paid for this.
But like I said, I'm not trying to dispute anything in what you said. I'm just saying it's difficult to go down this hole because they don't allow us to see. It's not transparent. You can't look at where all of your tax money goes. You just can't. You just don't. It sucks.
It's impossible.
It sucks.
It's impossible. There's a reason why my dad, who's a super liberal, like anytime any proposition or bill comes out that says it's going to raise taxes, he votes no on it.
Even though that's the liberal thing, you should vote yes, right? You should.
Yeah.
Like I know there's a stem cell thing. I know there's something about stem cells.
Yeah.
I don't know what you voted
yes on that.
I was going to say I'm voting yes on that. But when it comes to raising more money for schools, I'm going to vote no on that probably. I haven't looked it up, but I'm sure there's something about schools. Because time and time again, I don't think schools don't have enough money. I think the money that they're having is like being given to the wrong people. And there's a whole bunch of things wrong with schools. Like, and it's not because they're not getting enough money. Money doesn't solve problems. Money can create problems sometimes or make problems worse. I mean, I don't know how many administrators in community college that we'd hear rotating out of like, oh, well, these teachers lost their position, but this administrator just got leveled up and now he's making $200,000 a year or something like that. And it's like, what? Why are the teachers, you know what I'm saying? Again, it's all like hearsay, but that's real. People know about that too, that they're getting these higher salaries.
I haven't gone deep into it, but LAUSD ranks fourth in California, and the state of California ranks 38th in the nation. So something's not being done right here.
In terms of the educational, yeah, and it's not just money because you can't tout about how California is like we're a power, we're on the spending power, we're like fourth, we're like the number four largest economy in the world or whatever the stat is. I don't know, it's something like that, right? We're like top 10. That's how big California is. You tout all this about money and this and that, and then say, oh, our schools are underfunded. How is that possible? What's taken away from that? Because California doesn't have a military budget. You know, we're not we're not putting all of our money in the military. We don't have that. We have police spending. But we have medical. The states controls three things, right? They control the police, the medical, and the schools. But it's just, I don't know. More money doesn't. We probably have the highest taxes in the country too, or close to it. We have to have a pretty high tax rate, at least with sales tax and stuff.
Uh,
Just in the country.
some random website I found of 10,817 districts in the U.S. Where do you think the LAUSD ranks?
I don't know. Because I thought LAUSD was pretty fine, and then I like everybody I talked to is like LAUSD sucks. So I would assume pretty low. Let me say first top 5,000.
Definitely top 5,000. 690.
It's not bad.
Well, this is anecdotal, but when I moved down here, it took me a long time until I met someone that went to public school. And varying across like from like working class to upper class. Like nobody was going to public school around here. Kind of blew my mind because where I grew up, everybody goes to public school. There was a couple private schools, but there were nothing.
Well, I mean, I went to public school in high school, but my first years I was in private school. For
Right.
sure.
Right. You're going to public school for high school was a social decision, wasn't it?
Well, the girl I was dating at the time was going there, and then also like I just didn't want to go. Like I had a quote unquote ultimatum with my parents. It was like if I was going to go to public school or private school, I wanted to go to this specific school, and it was like more expensive and stuff. But I really didn't want to go, so it didn't really matter.
Oh, that was your way of getting out of it.
Yeah. Like if I had to, I would, because some of my other good friends were also going there, so it wouldn't have been a problem. But I always knew I just wanted to go there anyway. Plus, my parents went there, and I was like, why? I don't know. I was just done with private schools. You kind of just get done
Right.
with like having to put uniforms on, not being able to let your hair out. Not that it matters, but it's just I always felt like it always bothered me being in a Catholic school. You see pictures of Jesus everywhere, and he has long hair, and then like I have to cut my hair fucking short. And I
Well,
would
they
tell
didn't
this
have
to them.
They didn't have scissors back then to cut hair, man.
I remember when I was going to get confirmed, and I was in high school, right? Confirmed in the Catholic Church to just confirmation that I'm a Catholic. And we had to go through these classes and this and that. And my 8th grade teacher was like the head of the confirmation, like whatever division. I don't know what the hell
Right.
it is. And I remember she pulled me aside and she was like, so are you gonna? Because I had longer hair now. I was in fucking public school. It was probably this. It might have been this long. Are you gonna cut your hair? Like she's basically kind of telling me like I need to cut my hair, and I used that line. I said Jesus Christ did not cut his hair. I'm not cutting my hair, and that was the last time we talked about it. Like she tried to like say something to my my leader, because like you're in like a little group that you go
Right.
through confirmation with, and she was like, well, if he's not wrong. So, I'm not going to say anything. If he doesn't want to do it, he doesn't have to do it. So, I wasn't going to do it. Because it became down to, like, I think if that's the one thing that's going to pull me back from being a Catholic, well, I don't see what, it was one of those things, Really?
Yeah.
Me having long hair is not going to make me be able to get confirmation? Okay. Give me a break. But that's just that old school like mentality of long hair is the hippie, the but then again,
Yeah. It
every
might
picture
have
of
been at
Jesus, name me one
the
show me one picture of Jesus where he has a buzz cut.
fucking Father O'Callahan might have served in the Vietnam War before he turned to the cloth.
And he's like,
So he
"Gosh,
still
damn
had that
hippies."
military. Yeah, he still had that military mentality. Oh man. So I'm going through Twitter to see what's trending, and it's all debate shit. We already talked about the debate.
Of course.
Was there anything you want to bring up?
No, I mean there was some stuff about Iran that, but I honestly haven't gotten too deep into it because I just, like I always say, you get to a certain point and you just stop caring about things because it just becomes another talking point of back and forth. Like, okay, if these are our national security advisors saying this, if these are our top guys from the FBI, CIA, whatever, and then we still have the American public being like, nah, I don't believe it. It's just like, you just want to slam your head against the fucking wall because then it's like, well, if you don't believe in these people, why are we paying them to do this job?
Right.
Because my taxpayer money's going to fucking pay the FBI and all this shit. That's where your $10 trillion national security budget, like the FBI, is most likely included in that defense, like into that category, and then you're not going to believe them? Like, what? So then what is
the
the
FBI
money?
or this FBI or the CIA?
I don't know who it was. I know it was some, like, it wasn't just some like random report from like some,
Yeah.
it was like someone, and maybe it was from Congress. I don't really know. Like I said, I wanted to talk about it, but I didn't look into it, so I could be wrong on some things. But my point is like, these are their jobs. This is their jobs. Trump has openly dismissed like this FBI and CIA and all these things, which continues to create that like, which I get it. It's cool to question things, but
I mean, I think it's also because they're investigating him, and that's like his way of trying to get him off his trail.
of
I think
course,
it's part of that.
Don't listen to them. They say I do this, but don't listen to them. They don't know what they're talking about. I don't know, but other than that, not really. I mean, we talked about Disney. That's what I wanted to talk about last week, and we didn't get to it.
No, let's finish on that. We've been talking about this for months sporadically about how the movie theaters still haven't opened here in California, or at least they have in Orange County, but they haven't opened in LA. They haven't opened in San Francisco.
Which might as well not be open then.
Yeah, exactly. Because of the state, the color, whatever.
Yeah,
my buddy who if he watches this, fuck you for flaking. He was supposed to come on and talk about. He's an ER nurse, and we're going to talk about his experience with COVID. And hopefully next week we'll get to do that. But he told me yesterday that San Bernardino County went from yellow to purple, and he's like, he thought red was the worst, and I was like, no, purple's the worst. So I was like, so within a week, that county went from
they jumped
pretty
up
much
too?
being, yeah, it went from being basically as open as you can be in California to right back down to where LA is shut down because of the amount of infections that happened within 1 week. And that seemed to coincide with the holiday weekend.
And that's the thing, man. That it's like we talked about earlier. It's not going to get any better. It becomes down to personal accountability, and it's like, okay, you're talking about the biggest holidays of the year for this country, Thanksgiving and Christmas, back to back, in terms of family gatherings. Like, you can have a family gathering at 4th of July, but you can also spend it with your friends. Realistically speaking, Thanksgiving is not reserved, but you know what I'm getting at. It's mostly your family. It's most people going back to their family, traveling back home because they live across the country or they live wherever. And for Christmas especially, or all, not just Christmas, but Hanukkah, all the major holidays that are around that time period that are in December and stuff. So it's
and
like,
I'm gonna send this to you in the chat just
Okay.
so you can see the color code, and we can throw that up there for people that are not in the state, not familiar.
yeah.
But it's the breakdown of what the color codes mean. Yellow means less than 1 case per 100,000, less than 2% positivity in the county, and less than 2.2% healthy equity quartile. So I'm guessing for the a specific amount of time, like only less than 2.2% of the entire county for set amount of weeks or something has been infected. And
And then there's
then
ways you can circumvent this, like if they've been really monitoring certain things, like they've Newsom said that it's not like 100% like by the book, like it could be case by case depending.
but to get up to purple, you got to have more than 7 cases per 100,000 and more than 8% positivity in the county. So San Bernardino jumped from 2% to 8% in a week.
And it's not going to go down. Those numbers aren't going down. That's what I'm saying. Like it's
Oh,
because
man.
you wanted to end with the theaters and stuff. Like, okay, what's changed in the last few months? Nothing. When
Yeah.
your theater has 95 or 80%, 85, excuse me, 85 to 90% open of all of your theater chains, and you're still in the toilet, well, that's because there's no movies being released, but also that's also because the remaining 15, 20% is your majority of all of your market, like where the money comes from. That, in my
Right.
opinion, that's what I firmly believe. I mean, people can argue about like maybe this one county maybe makes more than X, Y, and Z, but I can't see any market it being bigger than Los Angeles, New York, those two. I just don't know any bigger market. I really don't.
It's about the amount of population. The two largest populations in the U.S. are New York and L.A. So
So
it's obvious. Yeah.
and there's theaters all over those places, and it's just I want it. It's a double-edged sword because I want these theaters to open up, but if the companies are not going to release things till next year, then unfortunately companies like AMC and stuff, they need to weather the storm because they're not going to make it, and because they're they can't survive without the studios releasing movies, and the studios are not going to
Right.
release movies until the companies are until people are going back to the theater. Tenet. It's funny we talked about how Christopher Nolan maybe potentially became inherently the savior of the film industry, like when he was going to release Tenet, because I thought, oh man, people are going to go out, and then it got pushed back, and then it got pushed back a little bit more, and then it finally did come out. It's almost as if Tenet might have been the death to the theater for a while, because everyone saw what Tenet made, Disney saw what Mulan made without going
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, this isn't worth it. We spent too much money on these other movies. This is not going to be worth releasing these things. I don't know how much they spent on Soul, but Soul's going to get a theatrical release, but it's also going to go on Disney Plus too. So it's like, or maybe Soul's not getting one. I don't know. That's Pixar's new movie.
Oh, okay.
But I'm just saying, there's no movies coming out this year. So even if California was like, all right, we can open up, what are they going to release? Nothing. There's nothing. But when things do open up, the theaters that survive, they'll make money, because I guarantee you people will go out to watch the new Black Widow. People will go to watch the new Wonder Woman. People will go to watch Amazing Spider-Man 3. They will watch these movies without a shot. People will go to watch Fast and the Furious 9 or 10, whatever it's on right now.
I mean, that's the risk that the studios are taking by holding them back, because a lot of these movies are finished.
And that's the thing. They're done, but it's just
Yeah,
it's now it's
they're
going to be how
rolling the
many
dice.
theaters are going to be open by the time, cuz when they do open, those movies will attract people,
Right.
especially with the Marvel, because they haven't made one since Avengers. I mean, the Spider-Man
No.
2, but you know what I mean. Like, they want to see the next chapter in this story, and that next chapter, they should have been well ahead into this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they were expect. I mean, we were all expecting to see it
We're supposed to be
in
watching
May.
Ten Rings or whatever right now, or whatever it is, the Mandarin, or no, not Man. What is it? The with Angelina Jolie, whatever that Shaolin. I'm totally not
Oh,
trying to. I'm not trying to be offensive.
Eternals.
Yeah, the Eternals. Like that was supposed to be out already, I think. So it's like, people. As soon as those movies are the theaters are open, people are gonna go. I don't see people like Tenet. Tenet might have been the right movie if everyone was going to watch it, but a movie like Tenet, Christopher Nolan's movies are successful because of word of mouth. Everybody talks about like
This is insane. We were the last. I didn't realize that the last MCU film to come out in the theater was Far From Home.
yeah, Spider-Man 2,
Yeah.
and we're behind.
Yeah, Black Widow was supposed to come out in May. Shang-Chi was supposed to come out in
Oh,
July.
that's what I was talking about. Shang-Chi. Yeah, that's what I meant.
And then Eternals was supposed to come out in November.
Yeah, we were supposed to, and
Wow.
we were already supposed to have the Wanda show, I think. The
Oh,
Cap.
and Spider-Man, the third Spider-Man was supposed to come out in December. Wow.
Yeah.
Man,
So
fuck 2020, bro. No, I'm lying. Oh,
no,
this is where
Spider-Man's not. Spider-Man's. There's gonna be a
No, you
sneak
know what?
preview for Spider-Man
I
this
was
year.
looking at it wrong because they've already announced the dates for next year. They say 2021. They don't have the original like release dates.
Well,
All I know is we're supposed to get 2 or 3 MCU
minimum
films
2.
this year.
I know the
Yeah.
Eternals is supposed to come out this year, and I know Black Widow. But my point is, it still stands. It's just about how many theaters are gonna be left, really. AMC's running out of money. Regal's shutting down because they can't afford to stay open. You know, Cinemark's still open. I don't know. Maybe they're doing well. These things happen. The theater industries go through these problems where they get too big and they file for bankruptcy, and then another theater eats another theater. So do I think the theatrical experience will disappear? No, but I think that there's a potential for it to definitely be different, and that's
Well, we also saw, we talked about it a few months ago, or was it a couple months ago? Oh, excuse me. What the deregulation, the regulations getting pulled back where studios could buy theaters again.
Yep. I mean, Netflix has
You
their own
know.
theater, and which is another problem potentially. Like if Disney has its own theater already, the El Capitan, you know, if they made a El Capitan 2 or something, and all of a sudden they're like, if you want to watch the new Disney fucking Star Wars, excuse me, not Star Wars, Avengers, you got to come to our theater. You got to spend $65 because
I guess I meant it more along the lines of Disney could do the old bailout for AMC and end up buying AMC.
that's
or
true.
end up
That's
buying
true. And then
Regal Theater.
and the rub is we get 90% of all profits from any Disney movie non-negotiable or something like
Right.
that, and you get to have this or something. I mean we discussed it with Universal and AMC because AMC only has money right now because they made that deal with Universal where they allow Universal movies to play video on demand after 3 weeks, which is like completely unheard of, but like now it seems to be saving them. So it's like we're in a completely different ball game.
Yeah.
I mean, Quibi just shut down. Quibi, which
Yeah.
and I'm only bringing that up. It has nothing to do with movie theaters, but it's just people thought that was going to be the thing. I never really signed up for it. I didn't get it. Like, why would you spend money on short films when you can just get short films on YouTube? But it's
Well,
like
I think they were going to get like longer form content.
no, I think it
too.
was only 10 minutes. Like I think
Well, I know because
they had that.
I know
had
they
some
signed
movies.
a development deal with a comic book. With the
Oh, well, I know like
Ice
Kevin
Cream
Hart
Man.
had a movie on it, but it was like in a 10-minute. It was like 10-minute segments that equaled like theatrical film length or something. I know
Got
like the
it.
new Reno 911, which I actually did want to watch. It was like the same thing. It was all 10-minute segments.
Got it.
I didn't see any of it though. I never signed up for it. But what I'm saying is, you still have online to deal with. Not even talking about
Yeah.
streaming. Just the game is just constantly shifting, and you just got to stay on your toes and just make content. I think at the end of the day, but
Well, Apple TV's making a play too now.
of course,
They bought the rights to all the Peanuts.
yeah, and
films.
that's a big deal for some people. People like Peanuts. It's just
So it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting. 2020 is done. 2021 is gonna be interesting, and
that's the thing.
let's
2020 is
hope,
not done. They all, we always say this like, well, they say these next few weeks are supposed to be the worst. They say the da is supposed to be worse. Well,
Oh, yeah.
since the
So-
beginning, everyone has said the winter months are going to be the worst. So we'll see.
So our flake guest actually told me last night that the hospital he's at is expecting an 85% spike in infections
Yeah.
these next couple of months. Like they're already preparing, they're bracing for this huge influx of sick people.
They're literally the fucking Spartans holding their shields tighter together, bracing for the
Yeah.
fucking impact of COVID. Because it's about
Right,
to
like-
be overwhelming, and that's the big problem that people don't realize. It's not like, oh well, you only have this amount of cases. Yeah, but if you only can hold 10,000 people in all your hospitals in the county, and you have 12,000 people infected, well, where do those 2,000 people go?
Mm-hmm.
That's the issue.
I mean, he'll talk about it in more detail, but, I remember him telling me that they started putting tents out in the parking lot, that they started moving people out of the ER and into or ICU. Like they had to open up a whole complete floor for ICU because they were running out of beds, and then they were preparing. So if you were in an ICU, you were basically not getting inside the hospital. They were going to treat you outside in a tent.
Which is better than nothing, but it also just shows you how much they're being spread thin.
Right, exactly. Like, I mean, he got flown up to work in San Francisco for 3 weeks because
they don't do that. They don't do that.
Right.
I'm assuming
they
don't do that.
He's not a specialist either.
Yeah.
It's not like he's
They needed reinforcements, literally.
Right. Exactly.
I'm sure it was him and I'm sure it was a full flight full of people that went on that flight to go up there.
Just want to tell you guys, fucking, don't go party, man. Like keep it local. Keep
you
it in
can
your
party,
pants.
but just stay in your pod.
Right, exactly. That's the best way of putting it. Stay within your group. My nephew's gonna turn 1 on Sunday, and his dad is not part of our circle. He sees his dad. I don't know how frequently because we don't know all the data, but my sister-in-law is like, oh, well, hey, I want to throw a party for his first birthday. And I immediately said, you know what? If you guys throw a big party, I'm not going. And neither is anyone in my wife, my son, we're not going. This is not the right time. I understand it sucks that it's his first birthday. He's not going to remember. This is more for you than him. But if you guys try to throw this big bash, we aren't going because that's stupid. I don't want to be around people I don't know, that I've never seen, that I'm never going to see again, and potentially get sick and potentially have my family get sick.
It's not worth it.
Because of this.
It's not when you can wait another year.
It's not worth it. And thank God, like, some shit happened where everything kind of fell apart. So, but I'm just saying, like
if push came to shove, you just got.
If you got this far and you're thinking about going out and having this big bash, like, just don't. You know what I mean? I have my select few people that I like go around that I know. Like, my best friend lives 3 hours north and he doesn't leave his fucking compound. So if he gets sick, it's my fucking fault. So like I know where I'm going. I know I'm not putting myself at risk. And I know it's one of those things where like I will do. I don't go and see my parents unless I take a test and it comes back negative. And once it comes back negative, then I'll go and see my parents up north. And I don't think other people are taking those measures.
No, they're
just
not.
like,
they're not.
Yeah.
Like I said, my family member who will remain. I won't identify the relation, but.
Fucking Kathy Ortiz.
No. I do have an aunt named Kathy, and she is not the one with COVID, for
Denise
sure.
Medina.
Yeah. Okay. I don't have it. You could say that. But yeah.
Patricia Vasquez.
She's out running. She's out fucking doing things that she shouldn't be doing. Mingling with people and stuff, knowing full well that she's positive, and just people just treat it differently. So if people want it to be over quicker, they should just follow the rules. That's all. I think that's all, because we all want it to be done. I don't want to wear a mask.
Well, anyways, guys, that's gonna do it for us. Thanks for watching. Smash that like button if you're listening on iTunes, Apple Podcasts. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and review us on all the other streaming platforms. Hey, we gotta get on Amazon if we're not on Amazon already.
I didn't even know that Amazon had a thing.
Yeah, there's another one too out there that the
Google?
we can get on the the podcasts for
Spotify?
book, the people
Audible?
that don't want to read a book. Audible, yeah, there's a way to get on the Audible stream too. We should look at that.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Maybe by the time this one comes out, you guys should listen to us on Audible.
I doubt
But we will see ya on the next one.